All right, so today we're going to show a recording of a platform called ViralAI that provides access to public COVID-19 data over GA4GH standards. So in this video, we're going to cover two user experiences. The first one that we've started viewing on screen is how data custodians can enable GA4GH APIs on top of data in the cloud. Afterwards, we'll see how researchers can explore this data and use it in some kind of analysis. So we're starting with the data custodian experience. Ahead of this recording, we've uploaded 3 files into 3 major cloud providers' file storage systems, respectively. And over the next minute, we're going to see how we can configure 3 different data sources for each of our 3 cloud buckets and enable standard APIs on top of them. So the first bucket we configured was for AWS S3. Here on screen, currently we are configuring an Azure Blob Storage bucket. And in a second, when this one's complete, we'll configure a Google Cloud Storage bucket. So in these buckets, we've placed files that are simple text files that contain ASCII text for the logos of each of the respective cloud providers. And later on, we will show, once we've enabled standard APIs on top of these, how we can pull this data into an analysis environment. Right, so we're almost done creating data sources. What we're going to see next is, now that we've defined our 3 data sources, we'll move on to defining something called a collection. And a collection is essentially a way that we can combine our data sources together and enable APIs on top of all 3 of them at once. So here we're going to filter for the files and the 3 data sources we've made. You can see them listed here. And now we can name this as a single collection with a description. And you see that we now have the option of enabling GA4GH standard APIs and configuring access policies for them. So for this data, since it's public, we've enabled a public access policy for GA4GH Data Connect, which is for doing tabular searches, and GA4GH Data Repository Schema, or DRS, which is for accessing the file data. And we'll use both of these in a few minutes. All right, so now that our collection is created, we're going to move on to the researcher side. So here is the ViralAI Researcher UI, where researchers can explore the various collections and the tabular data inside them. So here we're looking at a different table from another collection that has more data in it, just so we can showcase what it looks like to do searches through this UI. And you can see we can see the tabular data and do filters based on the values in the columns with different kinds of operators. And importantly, all of these filters are being done through the GA4GH Data Connect API, irrespective of the implementation. And you can see on the screen now, you can even see queries that can be used directly against the Data Connect API to get the same data directly through standard APIs. So now we're going to look at the collection that we created for our files. This is a small table that's been generated for us with our 3 files, and you can see that they have DRS URIs that have been generated for them, which we will soon use to access the data and download these files. All right, so now we've moved on to starting to set up an analysis. So in our example today, we're using the DNA Nexus platform to execute a workflow. And in this workflow, we will use Data Connect to discover the files in a named collection, and then we will use DRS to download the bytes of these files. So you can see here, we're using DNA Nexus to configure the name of the collection that we'd like to download files from for this workflow. And this is just a simple example workflow that is going to just download the files and concatenate them together. So here we'll let the workflow run, and we've sped up a little bit to avoid some waiting, and you can see the output of this workflow is a file called joined.txt. And you can see now that we've concatenated all these files together. So that concludes this video. Just to reiterate what we've seen today, we were able to use a system to enable GA4GH APIs on top of some arbitrary files in multiple cloud providers, combine them into a collection, and have a researcher discover these and run a simple, albeit trivial, analysis on them. Thanks for watching.